everyone, welcome to Open. I'm Rhina Valentin, your host, Café con Leche, for the next hour, inviting you to get social with us online. That is, tweet us and follow us on Instagram at BronxNet TV and like us on Facebook at Open BronxNet Television. And of course, while you're there, don't forget, follow me on Twitter, SB, Instagram, Insta Stories, and LinkedIn at Rhina Valentin. So our first guest is a comedian, actress, writer, producer who is taking the world by storm, one joke at a time. In 2020, she headlined HBO's Latinx stand-up special, Entre Nos, while also appearing in Showtime's Shaquille's All-Star Comedy Jam. Most recently, she appeared in the Netflix hit comedy series, They Ready, presented by Tiffany Haddish, and now she has her own HBO special currently streaming on HBO Max titled Fighting Words on Cancel Culture and Social Issues that not only reflect the times, but also her personal life. Everyone, please welcome comedian Aida Rodriguez.
Hi, let's go.
Let's
Happy
That's how you closed it out. That's how
Yeah.
you closed it out. Let's talk about that. Let's go.
Well, that was me paying tribute to one of my friends, actually, who I've been sick, and he texted me this morning to see if I drank some water. Tony Baker, who lost his son, and you know, our comedy community is very close knit. That was our child. He was our nephew, and I just wanted to honor him because we all were in grief at the moment. We had a series of losses during the pandemic, and I just wanted to honor them. And I wanted to, you know, at the end of the day, I belong to the comedy community proudly, and I wanted to stand in solidarity with my brother.
Yeah, I noticed you closed out the whole thing, paying homage to 3 comedians that transitioned, I guess, while you were recording. So that's a beautiful thing. And thanks for sharing that with us. I do want to say thank you for showing so much love to the Bronx. You shot this in the Bronx.
Absolutely. I made a promise that I was going to shoot it in the Bronx. A lot of challenges took place during COVID because of all of the restrictions, and, you know, the Bronx is a neighborhood that has been impacted with issues that have to do with economics and politics. And so it's not high on the list for one of the places where people will go to do comedy. And I lived in the Bronx when I was little with my mom. And I was kidnapped from the Bronx, which I talk about in my comedy, from my grandmother took me from there. And I wanted my return to the Bronx to be one that was amicable and celebratory, and I wanted to lift my people up. And I know that a lot of my people live in the Bronx.
That's what's up. And thank you for making the time to be with us, considering you're not feeling well, although you look like you're sunbathing over there in California.
Not at all. I've been,
No.
You know, the weather's been really weird here. And I hate complaining about the weather in California to someone in New York, because it feels like blah, 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 blah. But, it's just been really weird. The weather's been raining and dreary and whatever. And the other thing I wanted to say is that I wanted to do my special in the Bronx because I wanted to bring money to the Bronx. I wanted to,
nice.
If I was gonna, you know, a special as an investment, and I wanted HBO Max to invest in the communities that I talk about in my stand-up.
I know, and let's talk about your stand-up. Like, when did you decide that you wanted to become a stand-up comedian?
I didn't decide until maybe about 14 years ago that I wanted to do stand-up, but I've always wanted to be a stand-up. I've always wanted to be funny. I've always wanted to be an actor since I was a little kid. I never dreamed about being anything else other than a teacher. And I had my whole life planned out. I was going to be an actress, a stand-up comedian, a star. And then when I retired, I was going to go teach children like me back in the hood. It's always been my dream. So I encountered Richard Pryor at a very young age because I used to sneak in and watch comedy with one of my uncles, who was one of my younger uncles. And so I just loved the way people would laugh at Richard Pryor. I was like, wow, he's got people in a trance just with laughter and forgetting about what's happening. And I always knew that I wanted to do that.
Yeah, well, it seems like you've encompassed everything that you set out to do, because you are teaching in a sense through your storytelling. You keep it raw and real. For real. Like, I mean, in Fighting Words on HBO, you share a lot about the diversity you've had to overcome. How challenging was that for you to even put that on paper?
It lives on paper. I have journals all over my room. It looks like a madhouse because I'm everywhere. There's a notebook in my house, and it's because I'm always writing. For me, it's cathartic. It's really about my own healing and about my own, process of working through the things that I've been through and then sharing them so that I can help others do the same. Like I'm like showing you my notebooks, like it's bananas. And so I sit down and I journal and I chronicle instances in my life. And then I go back and sometimes I'm like, oh, I could write a joke about this. And this would resonate with people because, this has happened. And, in Fighting Words, that's what I did. I wanted to show people the process of how things happen in my life and then how they become jokes. Specifically the stuff with my father and, Puerto Ricans and Dominicans and those dynamics that come with being part of those cultural groups. So I just sat down and I sit down and I write. And then, when it's time, those things come together to form a set for me in terms of what I want to say at that moment of in my comedy.
Yeah, I hear you. And it's one thing to write it down, and then it's another thing to convert it into a joke. That's a whole process within itself. So does that come easy for you?
So, I wouldn't say that it comes easy because that would be a lie. What it does is come natural for me. And so easy is, I would say, disrespectful to the craft of comedy because it's not easy. And people think that you just go on stage and become funny. But there's this whole editing process that you have to go through when you feel like you found something funny, and you have to sit down and carve out, the fat, trim the fat and carve out the meat that's going to put together a set that's cohesive on stage in the form of a joke. Because that's the difference between a comedian and another type of storyteller. You can't just go on stage and just talk. I mean, they have storytelling shows for that. That's what the Moth is for. But stand-up comedy is specific to jokes and funny. And so you have to figure out what your premise is, what your punchlines are going to be. And it's quite the process. So I wouldn't say that it's easy for me, but I would say that it does come natural.
That's good. Thanks for sharing that and for clarifying it, because I would say, it's really unique. Your style is very unique. And the fact that even with this particular special that you have on HBO, the fact that you were able to do a stand-up routine and then shift it into a documentary, and you want to stay there. We want to experience it with you. I've watched it a couple of times already. And to be bold and brave enough to just share this personal experience with the public, and also incorporate it into your set. It's almost like, for lack of a better word, like therapy.
Yeah, it was cathartic. The director of that documentary is also from the Bronx. Her name
I
is
know Nadia Hallgren. We know her. We have her on. We've had her on.
Oh, good. That's my girl, my sister. And it's interesting because I was very conscious about the reaction and the response from the comedy community in terms of the special, because there is the documentary portion. And a traditional stand-up comedy special is, supposed to be an hour of jokes. But I really wanted to take on the challenge of showing us, because there's such a lack of representation when it comes to Latinos, Latinx, Latine people in media, that I was like, you know what, I want to do this. And Nadia is the one that helped me put it together in terms of the concept. But I was just like, she was like, let's show people your process. And that's, she's a brilliant documentarian, and that's something that she knows how to do, is storytelling. She was like, let's show people how your life becomes jokes.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. The whole thing is beautiful. The whole thing was a wonderful ride. And I personally am a fan of the fact that you really are authentic and transparent in your work, and that you talk about yourself. Most comedians talk about subject matters. You talk a lot about yourself. And that to me is like really brave.
Oh, yeah. I want to normalize people, like the thing about our people, and when I say our people, I'm talking about Black and brown people, people that
Mm-hmm.
belong to the Caribbean, the diaspora, our community. Such a disservice has been done to us with the dehumanization of us throughout, history and media and in film and in books and in television. And so for me, I wanted people to see that we're like everybody else. And you know how many white people have sent me messages saying that they have the estranged fathers and that documentary resonated with them. It's not just Dominicans and Puerto Ricans, not just Black people from America, not just, minorities. It's been such an amount, white men, like, yeah, I didn't know my father. I'm the kid of an affair. Like, so I think that for me, it was just a labor of love. It was a piece of art. Like, it was a work of art for me. Like, it was, the concept of it, and from beginning to end, from what I wore to every word that I said, was all part of this story that I wanted to tell. Proud descendant of Africans and Tainos, the Taino greats. And you never get to see us in a way that is dignified and glorified like that. And so that was what it was about for me. And so, yeah, I wanted to do the comedy, and I wanted to make sure the comedy was solid, but I also wanted to tell the story. And while I stood there in my white outfit with my Taino symbols that were carved into my outfit, I wanted to make sure that I did my people proud.
And you did. You made us all proud. I'm
Thanks.
still proud. And on top of that, you even went a step further. Now you've reaching your hand back, which is also referred to as Sankofa, and you're pulling up the next generation of comedians, which is like really admirable, because that's the way it needs to be.
You know what, it's been my mantra from the beginning. Like I said, when Tiffany Haddish gave me the special, we talked about this years ago. We both, like, people are like, who originated the concept of giving back? Was it you or Tiffany? And I'm like, it was both of us. It's who we are, which is why we're friends, because the laws of attraction are real. Like, I've always, I did a movie in 2007, 2008 that I wrote and I produced, and I put 40 comedians in it because I was like, it was a comedy, and I was like, I got to keep, work in my community with the people that I roll with and my clique. And so Puerto Rican and Dominican comedians who are in the homelands don't get a chance and the exposure. There are a few that have you heard about, but you don't ever see them being shown. And so,
right, like highlighted, like showcased on a broader scale.
I wanted people to see that comedy lives there too. I also wanted to do comedy there to see if my comedy worked. I talk a lot about being Puerto Rican and Dominican, so I should be funny in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. And the women, because in the Dominican Republic, women just started doing comedy publicly like 2, maybe 3 years ago. So I wanted to really show us in our full spectrum, how, representation of all of us, from the ethnic groups to the social classes to everything, because we are all, we're the only people who are penalized for being successful. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the people of color are always being penalized. White people can be everything on TV and it's fine. But when when you're successful, you're a sellout. And then when you're poor, there's dignity in that. And we have to start normalizing being successful and being happy to be successful, because that's who we are. That's what we come from. Because before colonization, we come from the greats of, Africa and Puerto Rico and the greater and lesser Antilles and whatever you want to classify it as. We come from great people, and we should be okay walking into the light of being great now. And so I wanted to show all of that. I wanted people to see us not begging for money, no crime. No, I wanted you to see how beautiful our tierras are.
That's what's up. Oh my gosh. And thank you for bringing it here to our viewers. We are talking to the one and only Aida Rodriguez, humanizing humor. That's the title I'm giving you. Yeah, baby. And once again, for you guys, Aida Rodriguez's comedy special, Fighting Words, is currently streaming on HBO Max. Be sure to check it out. She's witty and funny, which brings me to, don't forget to follow her on IG at Funny Aida. All right, we have to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll speak to the Latin Grammy Culture Foundation's first female president, Tanya Ramos Puig. You don't want to miss, so don't go anywhere.